welcome to the Pulse Collective podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the PCP, otherwise known as the Pulse Collective podcast. I'm your host, Shahrukh Ansari. For those of you watching or listening audibly, we are Pulse Marketing Collective. We partner with businesses all over the country to help multiply their revenue, unleash business potential through AI-powered systems, and just streamline all of their operations so they can focus on what they do best. If you're looking for proven ways to actually get more clients, boost retention, and elevate your overall customer experience, we're happy that you're here because you're in the right place. Now that we got that out of the way, today I'm super excited because we have a very special guest. I'm actually joined by Sanjay Bhatia, who's the founder and CEO of Runday AI. Sanjay has spent years building companies at the intersection of AI, automation, and business growth. And with Runday AI, he is actually helping teams now scale their customer conversations through intelligent, no-code AI agents. Not going to go into more detail than that. We'll let Sanjay do a quick intro. Sanjay, welcome to the show.
Hey there. Happy Monday. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Really excited to have you on, Sanjay. Can you kick us off by just sharing a bit about yourself, your background, and tell the audience what Runday AI is all about?
Yeah, so working on Runday right now. It's my 7th AI company. I'm also an acro yogi and into spirituality and live in Fort Lauderdale and love the beach and love building AI companies.
Awesome. So Runday specifically, like just doing a little bit of digging, you guys are essentially focused on no-code AI agents. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly you do?
Yeah, our agents are actually brand ambassadors that become product experts, learn everything about the brand, are able to have conversations with anyone interested in the product or service. But the most exciting thing it does is goes out there in the world and actually initiates conversations that bring people into the funnel. And so we mostly do high ticket. It's mostly B2B and some B2C high ticket items, but it's really about any kind of product that's like complicated enough. You don't just, not like a commodity where you just buy it. More although sometimes there's complex commodities, especially in the health and wellness and longevity space that we work with, but just things that we you don't just, it's not a yes or no question. You have to have a conversation about it to see if it's right for you or the best way it would work in your life or for your business. And so we have some of the top coaches in the world, some of the top software companies in the world on our platform that are leveraging it for a multitude of things, initiating new conversations with people that are not part of their ecosystem yet, engaging those audiences, and even supporting existing customers.
That's very cool. So essentially you have two channels. They're customer service agents, but they also help engage new audiences. So do you mean like they're also outbound, like they have outbound channels as well? Or is it?
Yeah, it's the whole, in fact, the outbound is what people are most excited about because who doesn't? Meta and Google are just becoming so complicated and expensive to utilize as lead sources. People use us in many ways as an alternative.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Definitely something even within my own business that I think I struggle with as well is just having that outbound touch. So many different people nowadays that blow a lot of ad spend consistently on just running meta ads. And you being a 7-time entrepreneur, obviously you've probably seen more than the average entrepreneur who might just be running 1 or 2 businesses in their time. What is the biggest opportunity that you're seeing in this space for people that are still kind of left in the more traditional sense of running their outreach, engaging their potential clients? Like, what is the biggest opportunity that you're seeing?
The biggest opportunities are personal branding and AI, and I think it's also an understanding of the demographics. The media tells a story of AI taking your job when the exact opposite is true. It's like almost a cover story because we're 1 billion workers short in the next 20 years. And just birth rates have collapsed in much of the world, and they didn't collapse recently. They collapsed 20 years ago. So there's no teenagers working at call centers or, a lot of these front desks or fast food, like these types of traditional things that, the younger generation would come in and take over those jobs. That's just not happening. So AI will, be able to serve some of them, but the opportunity is to really see where the world is going, how different countries are experiencing in different ways, and to really understand, like, okay, we're in a demographic collapse. Maybe it corrects. We don't know, but it's not correct. It's getting worse right now, and it gets worse before it gets better. And if it gets better, it's 2 decades away. If everyone just starts having kids today, we'll be fine in 20 years. But until then, it's just going in a certain direction. So understanding the demographics and seeing Here's where AI really fits into this. It's not taking anyone's job. I think it's sort of ignorant, not understanding capitalism and how capitalism is rewarded to think that people are going to get fired because of AI. Sure, there's going to be things that no one likes to do or no one likes that, that'll happen a little bit, but that's a fraction of 1 percentage point, I think. For the most part, it's really going to be like, how are people going to go from doers to managers leveraging AI? One thing for me is like, I've always wanted to be a musician, but I'm not one, right? So I've tried producing music videos, hiring teams and photographers and musicians and, managing it that way, but it's just not, it's not something I have the time or the budget for. But with AI, I can do that. I can work with a lyricist. I can then work with singers and musicians and produce. And this is one thing we're doing for our clients now, is producing music videos, but it's something that would take in, weeks to months of hiring people, managing them. I can get it done between Zoom calls. So that's how, I think about how AI and jobs work together. It's really more people transition to management. So to managing teenagers or younger people, they're managing AIs now. And so that's a big piece of it. And then, the power of personal branding. We're so saturated with just offers of, hey, save money, do this, do that. Like it's just noise. And so, kind of having that personal brand, or it doesn't have to be your face on it, but just that sort of that mission that's important, that you're leveraging AI and community and ecosystems for, but having kind of like that mission beyond just making money or saving money. That's going to be very important to for most products we buy. The margins are, you can get the same knockoff in China that's just as good for a fraction of the price. So people buy brands for a reason.
Right. No, I completely agree. Like, just firsthand experience, I think that the biggest gap that we're seeing on the market right now, and it's just historically, was always skill. And I think AI has really bridged the gap between the people that are super skilled versus people that don't really have the skill set. It's kind of bridged that gap between the two.
Yeah.
And if anything,
I'm a very
yeah,
poorly skilled musician, but I can make incredible music, and that wasn't
yeah, like
possible a
I
few
just
months ago.
Yeah, like I think it's one of those things where, I'm not the most technical, like I have no engineering experience. I went to school, did my undergrad, I had my bachelor, like my BBA. So for me, I had always had that business acumen. But in order to, people think that the biggest obstacle now to get into this type of field is you need to actually engineer a brand new solution altogether and really like reinvent the wheel essentially. I personally obviously work with much smarter people than even me that take care of that stuff. But I think the biggest thing that I've seen is, I can go out into the workforce, and a lot of the stuff I used to run. So back like 5 years ago when I first started my first entrepreneurial experience, which was kind of like a local clothing brand at the time, I had to run everything. I had to do the outbound outreach. I had to do all the social media management, actually like running the meta ads, the Facebook ads, the LinkedIn outreach for different people, negotiating with suppliers, doing the video editing, photo editing. Like everything was just on one person, and I didn't have a team. But now, if I could go back, completely different. I can delegate different tasks, and I don't have to wear all the hats anymore. And I think that is one thing that, like you said, it's a big opportunity for people that if they take advantage of it. I'm curious though, because you are obviously, this isn't your first AI entrepreneurial experience. This isn't your first company that you founded. How has that experience shaped your approach to actually build Runday specifically?
Well, things are different now than I think even before COVID. Alex Ramosi, he just won a Guinness World Record for making, a book called $100 million, right? And then $100 million money, but he made $100 million within
I have that book right
one
here, right
day.
beside me. Yep.
Right. So, I think that sort of like is one of the best indications of the type of world we're in. I've been a builder most of my career. So I've built something. I've looked at the last company, FitMatch. We had partners and vendors that were providing solutions, and we built our own because it just didn't have the security, privacy, and accuracy that we needed. So we built something. And so I've always kind of built a solution to a problem, but today we're not in that builder world. It's almost like you get the marketing right first, and then you build whichever product you were able to market successfully. And so that's been an adaptation for me, and I think for a lot of people, where because of AI, because people are able to build and test so fast now, you don't go through that multi-year initiative of like building a product and then tweaking it for the market. You kind of determine that product market fit more up front, and then you sort of like, kind of build even faster than you ever could before. So it's much more adaptive now and reactive rather than planned and proactive.
I think market feedback now is probably your most valuable asset. Before, for example, like I want to actually get into a more practical example, and I think you'd be the perfect person to give a practical example of this. So let's say we have a brand new entrepreneur who's launching their own SaaS product that they want to take to market. They don't know if they need to perfect the engineering side of things and actually make sure that their product is quote unquote perfect before they can take it to market. What is your advice to people like that? Like, how should they take that first step?
Well, I would say perfecting the product in a scalable way is very hard. That's not something, I mean, AI coding tools don't do that. So just to be clear, like people, oh yeah, I'll just use like, Lovable or Base 44 to just build the product. No. That thing won't scale. You're still going to hire a very expensive engineering team to build a scalable solution that can, acquire and retain, especially, mid-market and enterprise customers. And so you still have to do all that, but you would no longer do that first. You would prototype something with AI tools, or, what I'm seeing working is you kind of don't build anything. You just build the funnels. And so you build a bunch of funnels and you see, working with a few clients that have these ideas. And what we're doing is we're just building funnels, and some that are very different, and seeing, is it a high ticket item? Is it a commodity price? Is it, like somewhere in the middle, like just building different designs and different products purely with AI. Nothing exists. Just videos and photos and just seeing what people do. The best example of this historically is actually, I think, Dropbox. So they created a landing page or a one-page website, and they kind of pre-announced Dropbox. They had no funding, they had no engineering, they had nothing. But they created a video of how you use Dropbox. And they created a waiting list to join. And they got whatever number was 200,000 people to sign up. And they took that to investors and raised the capital to build a company. Now they're a multi-billion-dollar company. And so they did this a while back. They were probably the first that I'm aware of. But now that's kind of becoming more and more the norm, where you just you build, you build the funnels, you build the marketing, you get that right, and then you know what product to build. And
Right.
you still got to, and it's still hard to build things. You may, you may prototype it with AI coding tools, but then you still are going to hire expensive, experienced developers. They may be more productive now because of their AI tooling, but there's no like AI bypasses engineering. That's not a thing, and probably won't be. It's just
Right.
you can build something that's testable that doesn't scale with AI, and you can build the marketing funnels ahead of time.
Right. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially for myself, I think a lot of times our biggest pitfall is we're perfectionists, and we try to perfect everything from the ground up before we even know if there's market demand for our product. What are the problems that we're really trying to solve? We're building a solution without even really understanding the underlying problem. So I completely agree. Like when you're going to market, getting that firsthand experience, like I think even for our consulting practice, when we first started, we really just started as like basically every other lead generation agency that you see on Instagram when you see ads and you're scrolling through, and it just didn't work. And there was a point that we had to really like reflect and sit back. And this is probably like a year and a half ago. And that's when we really started changing our way, where we're like, we need to just get in front of who our ideal customers are and hear from them firsthand. What are the problems that they're actually facing, and reconstruct what we're offering, build our intelligence within our team to actually tailor to that. Don't just sell one offer that might have worked for thousands of other people, because it may be too saturated now. And I think that tweak completely changed the game for us. And now like I don't even say we have an offer. We just tailor it to whatever it is that you need, essentially. I'm curious about one thing. I kind of want to step back a little bit. I think this is super valuable, but you emphasize the idea on your website of AI brand ambassadors, and we kind of briefly touched base on it earlier as well. How do you actually define that concept? Because that's actually the first time I've personally heard that terminology be used with a couple of our guests that we've had. what role specifically do these agents actually play in that customer journey from first acquisition to actually becoming clients?
Yeah, so it's there's a broader scope of what that means, but where we're focused and we're moving into that, where we're focused today is really if you think of an affiliate. And so a lot of companies have an affiliate agreement. So if you sign that affiliate agreement, you're a brand ambassador. You're representing their brand. You're going out there, whether it's fashion accessories you're wearing on your Instagram videos or you're doing, outreach and local networking events, you're an ambassador for that brand. We're building AIs that do that. They go out into the world through messaging, through emails, through social media. We're moving into things like video, music videos, other things like that. But we just represent a brand in a way that, maybe it's more viral, but it's more, it's more conversational generally. And then, just like a real brand ambassador, you bring that prospect back to the company for their team of closers to educate on that product and complete the transaction.
That's super cool. So you're actually, this is something I think that's super valuable for everybody listening. Like, you're not replacing your closers or the
No,
people,
not at
like that
all.
human touch. This is essentially just
I don't think,
complementing.
until we have quantum AI and it's really good, I see zero, capability of AI. Or even if AI can close a deal, the competition is just going to have a closer with AI, right? So it's just but opening, like educating, opening, um, some buyers just don't want to talk to a salesperson. They just want to work with somebody, someone more neutral that can educate them and help them make a decision, and then they'll go to the closer when they're ready. So AI is very good at those things, but no, AI is not. And from what I've seen, it's not good at. I mean, especially like cold calling is just not good at that. It's great at songs. Now, John Stewart was talking about it the other day, and he's like, talking about some of the dangers of AI. And he's a little bit more negative on it in some ways, but he ended that statement with, and it's great at creating songs, and so it's good at that, which is news to everybody because I as a researcher, I was a researcher in academics, and in that community, we never we were trying to create things. This was at Georgia Tech. A long time ago, but we were creating AIs that did like dangerous, hard jobs, right? That needed to be 24/7. We never thought poetry, music, these were even possible things AI could do. So this is news to all of us, including people in the AI research field. And so the leverage this stuff to kind of make things more fun and interesting, exciting has been a good time.
Yeah, I think you hit it. Like, sometimes I'll be scrolling on social media and I'll come across like, I don't know what type of music genre you're into. Like, I'm pretty big on like hip hop and that type of style of music. And a lot of times I'll see like an artist, even dating back, like I see new songs from Michael Jackson coming out and
Yeah.
people are just recreating them with AI. And I'm like,
Right.
this is
One of my
unreal.
friends, one of my buddies, he took a Michael Jackson video, put himself in it, you know,
That's insane to
and
me.
things like that are possible. I think you'll start to, I don't know if I don't know when the compute will be cheap enough, but we'll eventually have like your radio station where every song is generated just for you. I like lyrical songs. Think of like Kesha or Bon Jovi, things like that, where it's like a story. And so I like songs that are stories, and there's not a lot of that anymore. And so I've been creating my own songs, just that I like listening to them better than some of the new stuff that's out there now.
It's crazy. I think on the flip side, the criticism comes from artists where they feel like a lot of their work is being recreated and like regulation things. Like, I've seen, I don't know if you know the entire story, but there was a whole thing where Drake filed a whole lawsuit against like people that were recreating his music. And the lawsuit ended up falling through. There was nothing that they could actually carry forward to like basically like stop it. And I think a big part of that is the regulations around AI. They're kind of not like actually hard set right now. Like, nobody really knows what the limitations currently are. So from a regulatory standpoint, I'm curious on your perspective. Like, how do you see, whether it's federally or whether it's just companies just mandating like limitations, like how do you see it being regulated in the future?
I mean, there are regulations and there are limitations. We're trying to find the footing. I think part of it is the greater emphasis is the competition with China. And so whatever would be a reasonable way to regulate AI that we would want to implement, if it slows down American supremacy, it's just not something that's going to happen right now. And so we're in an arms race, China, and then, also Europe and India and other major economies are doing their own thing too. But it's an arms race. Like there is if some country achieves quantum AI or whatever it becomes first in an exclusive way, that's the next superpower. Could be a country that's, if you look at militarily, like Poland is becoming a military superpower. No one would have thought that 100 years ago or 50 years ago, or I don't know, even maybe 5 years ago. But it's a thing, right? So there is a defense and security element of it that I think is being prioritized. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying it's being prioritized over reasonable regulations that we can put in place. And so I don't know. I think companies are self, regulating in some ways, kind of finding their ground on that. I don't think we, are able to. I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Right. I think there's definitely like you said, there's some ambiguity when it comes to that right now. But honestly, for people like me, I'm super excited about the future of where the market's heading in. I think there's so much opportunity all across the board for everyone. And I really just see two people. One person is going to be the one that's complaining that, my job is going to get taken over. For example, when I used to be an ex-IBM consultant, and when I was there was this entire concept. I don't know if you're familiar with like Watson AI.
Yeah, I am.
But so we used to run a lot of projects with large banking clients and a lot of people. And it was basically centered around how we can incorporate AI into their operations. And one big direction a lot of people were looking at was HR. That was like recruitment and how to kind of streamline that, because people were kind of tired of parsing through hundreds and hundreds of resumes at a time.
Of course.
And that's a huge application. What we actually did, so there's a concept called Client Zero, where we were actually essentially, before we brought that out to market, we had to automate everything internally first. So we were essentially our first client before bringing Watson out to market.
Got it.
And what we actually ended up doing is, if you saw, IBM wiped out their entire HR department and replaced it with this bot called Ask HR. So a lot of internal employees at the time, we were actually, for any paid days off, for any type of incentives or benefit requests that we wanted to actually put in, it was all done through this chat bot. There wasn't like a SAP or one of those applications internally anymore. What ended up happening is they moved all those HR reps, as opposed to firing all of them, they moved them into sales gigs. And obviously an HR rep, though, they don't have the same, I guess, interpersonal ability to actually sell and meet those quotas. So a lot of them got let go. What they didn't see, though, is if you fast forward about a year and a half later, IBM had to hire twice as many employees back just to be able to manage the AI automations that they put in place for their HR department. So now they've actually looked back, and in hindsight, they're actually in a surplus of employees compared to before. So this actually ties in, the reason why I was giving you this story, it ties into what you were saying, where it's not replacing jobs, just jobs are changing and it's giving new opportunity for people. It's just changing the entire marketplace. I find it super cool. And I was curious, like, what's your take on that? Is that something surprising to you?
It's just, I think it's, people not understanding capitalism, what it is. And so the modern capitalism, growth is rewarded far more than profits. A lot of big tech companies worth billions, trillions, in some cases dollars, but they're burning money. They're not profitable. So if you have that profit mindset, I don't necessarily agree with this. I'm just describing the reality that's just out there. And so growth is, for better or for worse, rewarded far more. So if your mindset is, okay, I have 100 people, AI makes them twice productive, I'm going to fire half of them, be more profitable, there's not much of a reward for that. And also, you're not in a bubble. Your competitors are accessing this AI too, right? So let's say you fire half your people and your competitors double their workforce. What's going to happen long term, right? Whoever grows is going to get rewarded. If you profit, you're being short-sighted. Yeah, I mean, there's Wall Street quarterly reports and earnings, and there's that game. And so there's some things there, but beyond that sort of limited view of like, I got to like do something to beat my quarterly estimate, whoever chooses to cut jobs is going to be just dominated by the people who use AI for growth. And it's just that simple to me. And I think it's like people, unfortunately, the school system, they define words like capitalism incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like, I think capitalism is defined as like, they sort of portray it as monopolies, like monopolistic companies working with the government and writing the laws. Like, that's cronyism. That's not capitalism. Capitalism is when there's a level playing field and everyone can operate. So what they define as capitalism in university now is sort of, to me, maybe not the opposite, but something else. And so I think there's a confusion. So capitalism is rewarding growth. And if you're using AI to cut jobs, you're being very short-sighted. That's not going to work for very long. Maybe you'll increase your quarterly profit, but a year or two down the line, your competitors who've chosen AI to grow are going to dominate you.
Yeah. I think honestly you hit the nail on the head. I wanna really dive a little bit deeper now into Runday, just instead of going a little bit more macro on the AI industry. You guys are obviously crushing it. I think what's unique is you actually incorporated both segments, like you're incorporating automations, but at the same time you've kept that human touch for a lot of your clients, which I think is the happy medium for a lot of people. Like, you can't fully replace one or the other. What I'm curious about, and I think you touched on kind of what you guys are doing well, especially with the brand ambassadors and how you've been able to kind of introduce a lot of these new service offerings into what you're bringing to market. What is the biggest kind of opportunity within your own operation that you're seeing right now that maybe is like your top priority right now in terms of taking you to the next level over the next 6 to 12 months?
The biggest opportunity that we're adding from a roadmap perspective is really the follow-up effort. Like we talked to whatever it was, 1,600 people this year. And are they all customers, or do we know when they're all going to be customers? No, we don't, right? So following up with perfection and precision is kind of the opportunity we see. We've gotten very good at booking appointments that are qualified. We had a record day, August 7th, where other than a couple internal meetings, the AI booked every single 30-minute slot with a new prospect. And so we're very good at that now. But then what happens, right? So some show up, some don't, some get rescheduled, but so the follow-up effort, that's what we're looking at this week for, going into next year, is like, how do we help our customers follow up better with this abundant, because if you get so many, especially if you get so many inbounds and so many appointments, you kind of like don't have much time left for the follow-up. So we've created a problem for ourselves because we're so good at opening these introductions that we're like, well, now we don't have, if I have every 30-minute back to back, how much time do I have to follow up on the first couple of meetings of the day? I don't, right? So how much of that can the AI do for us? Can it understand context? Can it simply be aware of whether we have a follow-up meeting in the future, right? Don't waste time. Don't bother people if you're already, if I already
Right.
book somebody they say, hey, let's talk in 2 weeks, and they book that, don't bother me about it. And definitely don't bother the prospect. So thinking through how that works, I think these are new problems that no one has solved yet that I'm aware of. And so we're looking at those opportunities as the fortune is in the follow-up, and how do we, good closers just do this intuitively. They're just wired that way after years of experience, but not everyone's a great closer, right? And so how do we help everyone else be a better closer by, keeping up with, looking at the notes? Maybe we integrate with note takers, but really, I think it's more of what we do, which is like the integration of conversation and calendaring. So, all right, I had 10 meetings yesterday. How many of the ones that have a follow-up, have they accepted? Just like if they haven't, ask them, why not? Or when's a better time? The ones that, did, what do you do about that? Like, kind of thinking through, like, how does the opener support the close? That's the next big opportunity.
Do you see in your process, because you've honestly automated beyond most people that I've spoken to, and I think your process is honestly very well streamlined. Like, I have to give kudos to you guys, because a lot of people
Thank you.
are still actually working to get to that point. In terms of, I'm curious about your sales side though, because I think marketing, you've already streamlined everything. Like, your appointments are fully automated; they come into your calendar, and now you just have obviously your, I guess, your sales team or whoever it is that's actually hopping on those calls to speak with them. How are you measuring if there is a bottleneck potentially on the lead qualification side versus if there's a bottleneck on your sales side? Like, how do you differentiate between that?
We can see multiple bottlenecks. So we have the data. we do enough volume that we can sort of see the shape of that pipeline and where the bottlenecks are. There's not necessarily one. So what's been a bottleneck for months, we haven't solved it yet fully, is that, we get a great call with the champion. They need to bring their partners in or present this. I mean, I had 2 of these today already, where they're like, oh, this is great. Let me go share this with my team. Scheduling the call with the rest of the team so that everyone can agree identifying who are these people. Sometimes we do a good job because our AI is able to find those teams ahead of time. And so we started educating them before the champion call even happened. So sometimes it works, but a lot of times, we don't know who these people are. We don't have their information. We don't have their schedules. And so it takes a while to try to get that, team call set up. And so that's a big bottleneck for us right now. And maybe it's just being more proactive and more preemptive the whole time, because when it works, it's because we built that conversational relationship with them early on, and we have some data about them. But I don't have an answer. That's where we're doing our R&D right now.
Yeah, I think the reason why I was curious about that too is because I had the same type of issue about a year ago, where at least for us, I think our marketing was really down packed. Like, we were running meta ads at the time. Our return on ad spend was very, very promising. And even our other channels, whether they were through email or whether they were through LinkedIn or whatever the case may be, everything was kind of working. But our bottleneck was, after the appointments came in, we just were not able to close, and we were not able to progress meetings further. So I realized personally, I'm like, this has to be a sales problem, because we're coming in with qualified leads. They're coming in and they're interested. They're high intent leads that are exactly the people we're looking for. And one thing that we first started off with, just as a pilot, was we started recording all of our sales calls with any of our sales reps. And we would basically take those transcriptions and kind of just pull that data and just essentially sit down and have like weekly sales meetings to just be like, this is how. Now we actually just leverage AI to do that entire process for us. Wow. So if somebody actually takes a sales call, we take the entire transcription of the sales call, run it through our AI sales trainer, and it essentially uses the same data that a sales trainer for basic. So it's actually trained to be a sales trainer that's managed sales teams for over 20 years. And now we'll actually pull the data from pain point handling, objection handling. This is what you should have said. This is what you should have said at this point. This is the rapport building stage. It actually levels everything out. So we get a full report after every sales call, and we give that report back to our sales reps to be like, hey, this is the points that we need to improve upon. It really kind of optimized how we manage our sales bottlenecks a lot more. And now we're just at a point where I think everything is streamlined. And I think because you're already ahead of the curve, that sales side of it might be something where, once you actually, it could be an idea. You may already have something for that, but once you actually pull some of those transcriptions of those calls,
we're
pull
looking
that
at
data, and you're able to,
looking at integrating with note takers, Gemini, to like pull that data and find. We may create our own note taker. There's probably too many of them, I think, but we'll see about that. But I think there's probably some other ways to access those notes, but that's definitely. I mean, if it's inside of email, we already have it. Right. So if our AI CC'd on the email, we have the data, but when it's like, on the meeting notes, like we gotta think through how that works. Definitely. I mean, for us, our close rate's pretty good. It's more like just moving from champion to team call. That's our bottleneck, where, we just need, these other people have not heard of us. They don't know why they should meet with us or show up to the meeting or whatever, or make some time. And maybe we haven't empowered our champion enough. So we're thinking through, okay, how do we 2x, 3x that conversion rate?
Just out of curiosity, on your actual discovery side of things, when you're actually getting people on, are you dealing with one decision maker typically, or do you typically
usually we'll open with a champion? So we're pretty good at that, is getting a lot of champions excited. And then sometimes they're one of the decision makers and they just need the rest of them. And sometimes they're not a decision maker. So that escalation or it might be something, sometimes it's just corporate budgeting. It's like, well, it's a CMO, but this would have to come out of the IT budget. So we got to get them involved. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. Companies just do it differently. So it's sort of whose budget it is. It is the sales CRO's budget, CMO's budget, the CIO's budget, or the founder's just going to do something. So things like that are like that complexity is something the AI has not yet mastered.
Yeah, I think so one thing that's really cool. So in extension to, obviously, in terms of the sales side of things, once we actually streamline that, another cool thing that we're actually building in-house now is anytime we actually get onto a sales call, so for example, if you're taking a sales call on Zoom, there's an actual third agent that enters the call and is live coaching your sales rep. So it's actually listening to objections that are coming as they come. And while you're actually on the call, as opposed to taking a transcription after the fact and like going into the next call with like updated information, it actually live coaches your sales rep. Okay, this is what you should say at this point. And those messages can only be seen by you internally, obviously not by the third person that's on the call.
Oh, very
So that's something
interesting.
we're still beta testing right now, but
You
we're
guys,
hoping to bring.
built that, or
Yeah, we
it was
built that
you found
internally.
that?
We built that internally.
We
Yeah.
would love to license that if that's something you're open
Yeah.
to.
So that's something that, so on our engineering side, they've actually been working on it for a while. It's not ready to be out yet, but yeah, no, after the fact, I can kind of show you like what that platform really is, just on a high level perspective. I think it could be beneficial. I do want to zoom out for a second because we're coming to the end of our time. Just from your perspective now, for a young entrepreneur that's coming into this space, obviously from COVID till now, it's day and night.
Yeah,
Prior to COVID, the world was day and night.
yeah.
So now,
Building worked back then. Yeah.
yeah. So now, like in 2025, somebody that's, let's ask you a better question. So 20-year-old Sanjay coming into this market now, what is the one biggest piece of advice you would give yourself to actually have that head start, knowing all the knowledge that you have now?
I think looking back at what I've done in my career, just I think the biggest mistakes I made were just not thinking bigger. Higher prices, bigger, bigger customers. It's not. It's different. It's a different game to go big. Like play it. Don't play $1 million game. Play $1 billion game. Like it's not that different. You're still working every day. Waking up. Like if you love what you do, you work every day of your life, or you don't work any at all, whatever you want to look at it. But it's like you're gonna play, right? So do you want to play $1 million game or $1 billion game? It's not that different. Oh, and then also from the investor perspective, I think one of the biggest mistakes I've made from I've done multiple fundraisers, but my first one, I was at a very high end VC, and I was talking about, I think I said like a $300 million exit, right, as a goal, and they kind of ended the meeting. They're like, "That's all you want to do?" Like, like just kind of undershooting the goal. So I would look at that. It's like, yeah, it's like you want to play a unicorn game. Doesn't mean you start that way. Start with something that builds up to it, but ultimately through, acquisitions or through expansion, like, solve a big, 10-figure problem.
Cool. Once again, it comes down to figuring out the problem before you try to propose a solution, and that's the root of everything. I think when you're coming out to market. Sanjay, this has been great. I don't want to kill any more time. I think this has been honestly super valuable, not just for me. I think I learned a lot from you too, and hopefully you got some value from this as well. I know our audience will. Now, just to wrap up, just giving you the podium. Where can people find you? Your website, social media. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn, Sanjay Bhatia, or really just, we're testing out a new AI agent on our homepage. Like that, client zero thing you're talking about. We have a number of clients excited about this concept, and we're just going to test it on ourselves first. But yeah, just come to our website, runday.ai, runday.ai, like runs your day, Monday with an R. And yeah, just have a chat with our new agent, sort of, if you're looking for B2B CMOs, like just tell it. And so get in touch with us that way, or just email me, Sanjay@runday.ai.
Sanjay, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much.